This week on Gymwright Live, we interview Alec Littlejohn of Untapped Revenue to learn about the latest trends in Facebook advertising and how to create ad campaigns that actually work. And for all of you listening to this via podcast, be sure to check out the video version of this interview and the extensive show notes at gymwright.com. And if you're enjoying the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and written review. If you'd like to watch the show live, we record every Friday in the network, our free private Facebook group for the motivated gym owners of the world to share their best tactics and strategies to grow their businesses. Join the network today and get in on that conversation. All right, back to the show. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Gymwright Live. I'm your host, Marcus Guerzi, and this week we welcome to the show special guest Alec Littlejohn, Facebook ad specialist and co-founder of the Facebook advertising group Untapped Revenue. Hey, Alec, it's a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, man. Thanks.
Awesome. So we are going to be getting into a subject that we get, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 million questions a week on, and that is Facebook advertising and how the heck do we stand out in a crowded market and what's the trick and what's working, what's not working. All of those things, we're going to be getting into all of that. We're going to be talking about the Facebook algorithm and what people need to know about it. So there's going to be lots of good stuff we're going to be getting into today. So thanks for being on. But before we get into any of that stuff, Alec, tell us a little bit about yourself, and your journey in this industry and getting started with Untapped.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that was a great intro. Thank you very much for that. But yeah, just to give you a little background on me, me and my business partner, Derek Verborn, we started our company probably about 2 years ago. But we really started learning all about kind of social media and how to advertise using Facebook, probably about 3 years ago, maybe 2.5. But it kind of started just from essentially finding this marketing program that was teaching us essentially the basics to understanding all these different social media platforms. I mean, especially in today's society, everything's moving towards the online world, right? I mean, Facebook, Instagram, they're getting so popular that people are realizing, wow, we can leverage these platforms for a business and actually make money off of them, right?
Sure.
So what ended up happening was we found this marketing course and we kind of started diving into it, and we really found our bread and butter with Facebook, where we started utilizing it for businesses. And where we really saw the benefit to Facebook was when we had our first client, and they were actually a gym owner, and this is kind of how we started in this niche. Where we were running campaigns, and we were actually on a golf course, and we had started the campaign. We had set up kind of all this automation, so we were getting texts every time a lead came through Facebook, and leads were just piling in as we were walking up and down the golf course, and we were like, this is like crazy. Like, this is powerful. This can really do some good for people that are struggling to get people in the front door. So that was kind of where it took off. But just to give you a little background on me and my profession, I actually took human kinetics as my major at university for 4 years. So I've always been into health and fitness and learning about the mind, psychology, and all that kind of stuff. And with marketing, I mean, marketing is a lot of psychology. It's really understanding how to really resonate with your audience and get them to take action. Because at the end of the day, when you're marketing, the goal is to get people in the door. Right. So I think where we kind of come into this is we position ourselves not just as a lead generation system, because it's one thing to get a lead sent to your phone, but it's another thing to actually transfer that lead into a member. So we like to consider ourselves a member generating company, because at the end of the day, leads don't mean anything unless they're actually converting. So that's essentially our story and where we're at today. So
awesome, man. Yeah, it's incredible when you first discover the power of good Facebook advertising, keyword being good. When it actually works, it's incredible, right? It's incredible what good advertising can do. And the beauty of doing it on Facebook is, for one, it's where everyone is hanging out for the whole social connection thing already. So it's a place where everyone already is. But it's also just in the platform and the metrics and what you're able to learn from doing this kind of advertising. I think about your audience, your local demographics. I think it's actually a very educational process as well if you're brand new and just getting into it. But anyway, okay, so let's get right into the sexy stuff here. So what are the basics of the Facebook algorithm that would be important for gym owners to know? Because this is something where I think everyone's eyes kind of glaze over, where they're like, why do I need to understand that? Help us understand what it is and why it's important.
Yeah, so just to start off, why it's important is it's when you understand the foundations of Facebook, you're able to actually leverage it to your advantage. So people have noticed now, I know this is kind of congruent among, especially gym owners, if you were putting out posts maybe a year ago, you were actually reaching a large majority of your audience on Facebook. Now it's shifted. It has changed. The algorithm has adapted big time. So now you put out a post, you're not reaching your audience anymore. Right. So what do you do and how do you adapt to that? Well, the key here is understanding the algorithm. If you actually understand how it works, you're actually then able to leverage it and utilize it so that when there's changes that happen to the algorithm, you're then able to obviously adapt to that. So in terms of what's changed currently, so now Facebook has transitioned from person to person or from person to page connection, and now it's focusing and prioritizing on person to person connection. That's what we want, right? So in terms of what you need to know as a gym owner, and this is kind of just a generic kind of overview of the algorithm because there's a lot to go along with the algorithm, but just to kind of keep it simple here. Now, it's always changing and adapting, but the same goal remains for Facebook. Facebook wants you to enjoy the platform. Facebook wants you to be on their platform. So Here's just kind of a quick little overview thing. So when you're on Facebook and you see content on your newsfeed, that content is based on what you actually interact with and what you engage with. So the more things you engage with and you actually click on, you comment on, you share, the more posts you're going to see similar to that post that you're engaging on.
Sure.
Right? So that's a part of how the algorithm works, but some key factors here are right now in the stage it's at, it's all about shares and comments. It's no longer just about getting those likes. It's no longer just about simply people watching your video. It's about getting people to share it and comment it. And there's this great quote, and it kind of puts it all together in terms of the new algorithm. And it's essentially, instead of creating content for your brand that people might interact with, we need to start creating content for people that will spark enough emotion to generate a comment or share. Right? So that thinking about that, it's like when you put up content, and even with your ads, this is important. If your ads are not resonating with your audience, you're going to get punished, right? You're not going to get as much reach. You're going to have to pay more to get more reach, and your cost per lead and all these different factors are going to go up, and you're going to be spending more. The results are going to be crappier. But a couple key points here. So when you're putting out an ad, when you're putting out a post, these are some things that people miss, and these are just some basic steps you can take. So one very important aspect is the time spent on your content. So if you put out a video, if people, let's say right now on our video where we have right now here, Marcus, if they watch the entire video, they just watched however long this video is, that's 40 minutes or so, let's say, of time spent on your content. That goes to Facebook, and Facebook reads that as, oh, this is good. People like this content. They're not leaving after for the 5-minute mark. They're watching the total 50 to 40 minutes. And this is the same kind of algorithm that YouTube has based on kind of that time spent on content. The next two things are speed of interaction and engagement. And with that, it's essentially when you put out a post, how quickly are people responding and engaging on your post? So this is why this is critical. This is really important, and it's the time you're actually posting. So you need to understand and do enough research to understand, when is my audience on Facebook, right? If my audience isn't on Facebook and I put out a post, then my time or my speed of interaction is going to be very, very not quick
very
enough,
long,
right?
Right?
So, yeah, not very long. So it's going to actually punish my results. So I'm not going to get as much people as I want to. And then just the last thing is just overall engagement and interaction. Like I said, it's all about getting those shares and comments now. So essentially that's really it in terms of some basic kind of things you can take out from the algorithm. Just really understanding that it's just about making Facebook happy, right? If you have people that are engaging and commenting, then you're going to get better results with Facebook, right?
Well, then that said, everyone watching this right now, I've got 21 people, give or take here, that are on this thing. So like it, comment on it. Let's see what you got. Say something interesting and boost this up so more people in the network see it, guys.
Exactly.
That's increased visibility.
And this is the beautiful thing about Facebook Live. Because it's so interactive and it's all about that engagement and that person-to-person connection, that's why you get 6 times the reach when you actually put out a Facebook Live. Right. So that's why just creating a Facebook Live, if you have a business page, which I know all gym owners have a business page, right? Put out Facebook Lives just delivering pure value. You're going to get 6 times the reach to your audience. And that's how powerful just these kind of Facebook Lives can be for your business. So that's something else that's really important.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah, that's something we, in the Foundations program, we create your annual marketing calendar and your content strategy where we've got quarterly themes, monthly themes, weekly themes, even down to the day.
Beautiful.
That's totally dialed in, but we have to choose a medium, right? And so many gym owners are paralyzed in, well, what if I'm not a blogger. I don't want to blog. Well, then don't blog. It's about creating content that has legitimate value to the people who you serve. And one of the best tools, if you want that multiplier effect, is Facebook Live. So create 1 or 2 basic videos a week that are, where you've got something that's interesting, you're going to get engagement on it, and do a live a couple times a week or once a week, and you will already see a significant increase in your reach and just overall visibility. Is that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
Right. Rather than just doing a video, do it live, and you'll get 6 times the bang for your buck.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that kind of draws people away from doing it is they're scared that if they make a mistake, then that's going to be a problem. And I'll tell you one thing that even with putting out a Facebook video, the best thing you can do for any types of videos on Facebook is being authentic. If you make a mistake here and there, it's okay. Being authentic makes people feel like you're a real person. You're not this person who's perfect in every avenue, right? So I think authenticity is huge. And in terms of kind of your ads, something we notice is the more authentic the actual posts, the better the results. So that's something to keep in mind.
Awesome. Love it. Good advice already. All right. So now what are some of the most effective Facebook ad strategies you've seen work for CrossFit gyms? Because most of the people watching this are CrossFit gym owners or something very, very similar. So obviously it's going to still be within that same arena. What you got?
Great question. Yeah. So in terms of kind of effective campaigns, this is kind of where we see some differences. And by that, I simply mean we can see that, like, if you look at any of the competitors or any gyms that are running campaigns right now, you'll see the typical 42-day challenge or 6-week challenge. You'll see the 7 days for free, the month free trials. And those are campaigns that can work. But here's where we kind of draw the line. And this is where I think it's very important that especially gym owners, CrossFit owners, they understand that every location is different. It doesn't matter if it's the same, let's say, franchise. If it's in 2 different locations, the demographic is completely different. And this is where really understanding your audience and who lives around your location is important. Because to tell you an effective campaign, there are some that work, right? So we use paid trials like 2 weeks for $49, 2 weeks for $17, and they can work really great. But if you put them in a different location, they might not work the same. So this is why I say every location is different. And this is where testing is really, really important when coming up with an effective campaign, right? So just to give you some value here in terms of effective campaigns that have worked for us, and I just want to be transparent here that, like, look, every location is different. So I might give you these ones that work for other people, but that doesn't mean they might necessarily work for you. And this is why I say when you put out offers, you want to test multiple offers in your area to see which one really resonates with your audience the best to be able to come up with that effective campaign for your location.
100%. And let me pause you before you go any further. I want to circle back to something you just mentioned that I think is so critical and ask you a kind of a sidebar question on that. You said people should not expect just because it worked for one gym that it's going to work the same for another gym. How should someone assume that when they are first starting their advertising or getting into advertising, should they assume that their first or maybe even second campaign is going to work like gangbusters?
No.
What about their third or fourth?
Maybe not. And here's the thing. I like the analogy where it says baseball players have this kind of hitting percentage, right?
Yes.
They take swings and a lot of the time they miss, right? But sometimes, I mean, you take a swing and you crack it and you hit it out of the park, right? And that's what we see, right? We see, and this is why I say testing is important, because you want to start broad, start taking swings, but as you're taking swings, you're learning so that the next swing you're closer to the ball, right? Mm-hmm. And as you learn, the closer you get to that ball until one time it's like, wow, I've kind of removed all these other kind of avenues. I now know that this free week trial brings in these really crappy leads. Right? But now it's like, okay, I don't need to spend any money doing that, right? So in reality, you think, oh, if people are just throwing out these offers, they might get a couple leads now, but they're not testing anything. Really, you're doing a disservice to your business because there is probably something else that works better. And if you're not testing everything, then you can't improve anything else, right? So I think it's just crucial here that to create an effective campaign is coming up with like 4 or 5 offers that you think are going to work really good in your area. Now, something I would do, and this is important when coming up with any campaign, is doing customer research. Now, I know we're going to kind of get into this a little bit deeper later on in terms of copy and stuff, but it is crucial to do your customer research, right? You need to understand what their pains and desires are, right? You need to understand what language they use and then replicate that language in your ads, right? And if people are resonating with let's say losing weight, and that's kind of a congruent kind of theme throughout what people are looking for, add that to your copy with 4 or 5 different offers and see which one takes off. Yep. Then you can really see, okay, these offers aren't really working that well on Facebook. This one is working well. Right. And I guess just to add to that, the one thing I will say is that there's a difference between offers that work on Facebook and offers that work on your website or in your actual studio. So there's some differences there, right? So a 7-day pass might work great if people are coming from your website, right? Coming from Google onto your website. But on Facebook, it might not work the same. So you might think, oh, this works really well for my studio. Have you tested it on Facebook? Because it might not work the same, right? You really need to test things. And I think that's where it's very important that you do test things. And that's kind of where I'll leave that question.
Yeah, thanks for addressing that, because it is like kind of like pulling teeth for us sometimes as coaching some gym owners, especially if they're newer or they don't have a lot of experience when it comes to advertising at all, let alone Facebook advertising. And you make a suggestion or you say, let's start here, or this is what I think would be a good start, and they give it one shot and they're like, it doesn't work. This doesn't work. You don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, you're not listening. This is step 1 of like 8. To figure this out. And this is again, it comes back to the mindset around, what are we doing here? We should go into this assuming that we're going to be going through testing, right? Exactly. Not I'm going to put together an ad set and I'm done. It's this is the first step. Let's implement it. Let's test it. Let's watch it. And then let's start making adjustments based on the feedback and the data that we're receiving. And then now you can start to fine tune and hone, and whether it's changing out the offer itself or it's changing out copy and imagery and so on, they can get in all that stuff. So anyway, thank you for helping drive that point home.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So back to the most effective ad campaigns you're seeing work.
Yeah. So, okay. In terms of so the 6-week challenge is something that works really well. And there's a company, Gym Launch. I know probably a lot of you are familiar with the company. But Gym Launch runs it, and they utilize a bait and switch. So it's essentially, hey, get a 6-week challenge for free. Right now, in terms of running that campaign, it does work, right? But you're going to get high quantity, but low quality, right? And that's why there's a difference between, if you're putting out a free offer, you're probably going to get a lot of quantity of leads, but the quality isn't going to be as high. And especially if you're running a CrossFit, your prices are a little bit higher than your typical gym memberships, right? So in terms of kind of finding that sweet spot, what we see works really well. 2 weeks for $49 works really well. 2 weeks for $17. And then if you're looking for just a high quantity, the 6-week challenge, positioning that either as free or even actually just being completely transparent and telling people, look, I have a 6-week challenge. It's $2.99, right? Just telling them straight up without having to use that bait and switch can work like wonders, right? But I think those 6-week challenges is something that's a little bit saturated as well. There's in some areas you have that same challenge being run at 4 different locations. So the question is, how do you stand out among everybody using that same kind of offer, right? But I would say definitely the 2 weeks for $49, 2 weeks for $17, finding that sweet spot in terms of price there for your studio, depending on your membership price. And then of course you can test the free offers as well. Right, so 10-day pass, a free week, and in some cases we've tested free months, and free months work really well. But the problem is that's where this mindset thing comes in. You have to understand that you're not going to be seeing that money come back into your bank account until after that month, because those people are signing up for a free month, right? So you're not getting any money in your back pocket until after that month that you have them, right? But yeah, those are essentially the ones that we find are the most effective. But like I said, we pretty well test everything to make sure that we know for sure this is going to be the best campaign to run and the most effective one to run for our clients.
So I have a question for you. Thank you for getting into that. And I want to say too, before we move on, I know we have a lot of clients that have worked with Gym Launch and they've had amazing results. and it's worked really well. And I want to just clarify, they're phenomenal at what they do.
Absolutely.
But like any service, just because it got certain results for one does not mean it's the same for others, or that they're going to get the same caliber of lead quality and that sort of thing. And that is the big thing to really understand about doing those types of challenges that are a little bit more canned versus getting something that's custom created for you, because you can still do the challenges, but you can custom tailor it now to be specific to your gym, your brand, a little bit more in line with your perceived value proposition, so that it's not this massive misalignment. So I got no problem with them or what they do. I've heard amazing things, and they've turned a lot of really struggling gyms around. But just understand, it's just like any other advertising system or service that is more where you're buying a turnkey solution versus buying a custom solution, right? So sometimes it works for some really well, and sometimes it doesn't. So.
Not as personalized, and it's definitely just to add to that, it's not as personalized. And the other thing I would say is it's not as consistent, because you can't. I mean, you could keep running the 6-week challenges, but when does it get to the point where you've been running it for so long that it no longer works, right? So where is that? That's an
inevitability.
Exactly.
Right. And okay, so the question for you is this: sometimes we have gyms that are more boutique, higher end, and they are not looking to do lower barrier offers, tripwire offers, freebie offers. And let's say that a gym has as their main offering or their main process is, we start off with a free one-on-one intro, then you go through, usually some sort of higher quality onboarding program, whether it's, a handful of one-on-one sessions, something to that effect. They're, the more expensive or higher end gym in their area. What do you recommend as a good starting point, or some considerations for gyms like that are not trying to discount the service per se and still create additional lead flow?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, because you don't want to kind of discount, especially when you're at a higher quality gym that costs a lot more, that premium service. So the one thing I would say to get or to position yourself is you want to position yourself as that premium brand, because to be honest, if you are that premium brand, you're going to have to pay more for your leads, because you're paying for higher quality leads. You want people that are not just looking for that freebie. Right. So how to position that in terms of kind of getting people in the door in the same ways. So I know you mentioned that a lot of the times you want to offer that kind of that free assessment or that introduction where they sit down one-on-one and they take care of their needs and figure out their goals and stuff. But what we kind of utilize with that is you still need a hook or an offer, right? Because you want to get people to take action. You need something that's going to attract people's attention, right? So in terms of your messaging, you want to position it as, let's say it is a paid offer. It's a little bit more expensive, but you want to give things to them. Like, let's say we offer a paid trial. So let's say it's 2 weeks for $70. 2 weeks for $70, and then what they get on top of that is a free introductory session, right? But you're already giving them that in the first place, but you're positioning it in your marketing as though they're getting it for free, and you're giving it to them part of the offer, right? But you know what I'm saying? But in reality, they're still getting that no matter who walks into the gym. Right. You're just using that as leverage to get people to take action and come into your studio. So I would say it's especially with the higher class and the premium level services, it's just you need to get your branding and really understand your audience and your messaging well enough to get them to take action. Because that in those kind of scenarios, it's all about differentiating yourself, providing value. Because if it costs more, I need to get a lot of value from you before I'm actually going to take action and pay you $250 a month or so. Right. So some strategies with those, and in terms of an effective campaign, you can actually utilize, we call it value-based marketing, where you do not ask them for anything. You don't sell them on the first initial ad. What you do is you put out an ad that's just pure value. It's a minute long, and you just over deliver on value so that they're like, wow, like that was so powerful. And then what you can do is you can actually retarget those people that watch 75% of that video, right? So now they're actually a warm audience because they've seen your content. They've taken interest in it because they've watched 75% of your video, and then you can retarget them with, let's say, that hook or offer that says, hey, look, we have a 2 weeks for $70 pass. You get a free fitness assessment. Come in and check us out. We want to help you reach your goals with your health and fitness. Right? But positioning it and using that strategy where you're actually just delivering value first is another strategy to kind of get past that barrier when you do have a higher ticket or a more premium service than your other typical gyms.
Yep. And for those who don't even want to do like a trial period, have you seen like putting like, I think then it comes down to like packaging, right? And to where it's like they're buying what would basically be, instead of a discounted version, you're just adding more value to what your, let's say that your first month or your sign up package, for example, right? So it's like the 5 one-on-one personal training sessions that normally would cost $375, you're getting that with your first month plus an in-body scan and custom nutrition plan.
Exactly.
Something, so now it's like, oh, that's a lot of the things that I know that I want, which you can use that value marketing to help build value for, right? So like addressing nutrition and, some common mistakes and some tips and you're making your own case. So people who are interested follow through. So now that offer is going to be appealing to them. Would you say that that's a pretty good way to approach it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The one thing I would say just to add to that is just, especially with, I guess, these premium services and stuff. That's exactly it. You need to provide value, because the one thing, if you're not going to do a trial, then getting people to really understand the value of your premium service is going to be a little bit more difficult, because you can't get them in to your studio to try it out for themselves, right? You need to show them before they get there if you're not going to do that trial. So that's where you really need to put in a lot more effort to provide value, to show them like, look, we know nutrition, we know how to get you to your goals. And then if you're not going to do that trial, it's going to be easier to convert those people onto those packages, right?
Yep. Beautiful.
But yeah.
Awesome. Now, speaking of like the imagery and the copy and all that, what have you seen work best? Are there some tricks or some tips you can give us to help us already do better just when it comes to that stuff?
So creatives, I know I already mentioned this, but authenticity works really well. And I know people get kind of scared where they're like, oh, this picture looks really ugly. I don't really want to put it. It's kind of pixely. It's not very clean. To be honest, we have seen the worst pictures in the world do the best. Yep. Like I'm talking like just a picture of somebody smiling. It's pixelated. It's not very clean.
Blurry hands going around.
It's amazing. Like it kills.
Look at Russell Brunson.
How? Exactly.
So look at ClickFunnels, Russell Brunson. Look at it. Just sign up for his newsletter. Go put your email into anything that he does, which, by the way, buckle up. You're going to buy something because he's so damn good at what he does.
So good.
But just look at the imagery. Like it's always the screenshots of the videos and the presentation. It's always like some picture, but you can't help but click it. And because it looks like you're already like in it. It's like I'm already halfway there. I might as well see what the hell's happening in there.
Exactly.
And next thing you know, you're hooked.
And that's why I was just, in terms of creatives, this is another thing where it's like you need to just try a bunch of different creatives. Try videos. Don't be scared because the video doesn't look very well. Try it, because you don't know what's going to work or what's not going to work. But in terms of good creatives, like thumb stoppers is what we call them. Something that really stands out. So Russell Brunson has those weird faces and you're like, okay, that kind of caught me off. I'm stopping now. Now I'm going to actually read what's happening, right?
Right.
So the creative is very important because it needs to get people to stop, because nowadays our attention spans are so small. We're like goldfish. So we're just like, I call it scrolliosis, where we're just scrolling so much. Exactly. So we're just scrolling. We need something to stop us and get us to read the copy. And then from there, once you have that creative, the copy is just essentially, we follow some certain steps, and these are going to be things that need to be in every copy. It doesn't matter what your messaging is, your branding is. If it's value-based, you don't want this at all, right? If it's just pure value, you just want to deliver value, not worry about selling or anything. But when you have an offer or you're trying to get people in, there's a couple points that we want to hit. One is giving them an incentive. So we talked about that. It's just giving them some sort of offer. Number one is specificity. This is where understanding your audience is important. So calling them out. So if your target audience is women, it's, hey, women in your location, right? That's a call out. That's being specific. If there's a girl who's reading that copy and says, oh, I'm a girl in this location, it's calling them out, right? Okay. So specificity is number one. Having your call to action above the fold. So this is something else where it's like you'll have your creative, and then on mobile, you want to make sure that your call to action that says click the button below to get this offer is above that fold, so that people can actually see what they need to do in order to get the offer. Second is popularity. So this is something along the lines of, come see why women in Georgia love our workouts. Something along the lines where people are like, wow, this is like popular, I guess. Another thing that a lot of people miss is urgency. Now, here's something that's like you need to have it in your copy. You need to make people understand like this is not going to be available forever. You need to take action now. People are lazy. They don't want to commit to things. So letting them know, look, we only have, let's say, 20 passes available, right? Or we only have this available until the end of December. Mm-hmm. Something along those lines, so people know that if this is urgent, they need to take action now. The one thing I will say about urgency is that a lot of times in marketing, we want to make things actually ethical. And by ethical, I mean what you say is what you mean. So if you only have 20 passes to give, only do 20 passes. Because if people see that for, let's say, a full month, and they're like, I thought there was only 20 passes. Right. This is still up. Did they not sell any passes? What's going on here? Right? So you want to make sure that if you, let's say, do 30 passes, 40 passes, that you actually give 40 passes. And then once they run out, if you want to like put that ad back out, all you have to do is put it back out and say, due to popular demand, we added another 30 vouchers to this. Boom. Right. Easy solution, but that's ethical marketing where you're actually doing what you're saying you're doing. Another key point is just rarity. So if this is something you never do, mention it. Like, I've never done this before on Facebook. This is our one-time offer.
It's my first time. Be gentle.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then something else that we like to do is emojis get people to comment and share and take action. So emojis are something we find that works really well in copy. So adding that is really important. And that's essentially it. I'll recap it again just quickly here. So give them an incentive to take action. Be specific to your audience. Have a call to action. Try to make it above the fold if you can. Popularity. So make it seem like this is popular, people want it, if it's true, obviously. Have that urgency, make sure it's ethical and you're actually only have a certain amount, it's only limited to whatever you make it limited to, and then rarity if you can, and then emojis. And that's essentially it in terms of copy. Rarity and popularity are pretty similar, so you can just have one in your copy and that's fine. Mm-hmm. But those are essentially what you want to keep with your copy. And then what I'll add to that, so that's kind of from a marketing perspective, the things you want to see. Mm-hmm. But where copy gets really powerful, and this is kind of where we see the differentiating factor among people, is really knowing your audience. And I've said this before, it's knowing what your audience wants and then reciting it word for word from their words, not your own. So I've talked to business owners that say, oh, my audience wants to lose weight. My audience wants this and that. Did they tell you that they want to lose those things? Is it in their words that that's what they want?
Right.
Because if you can take your audience's words and put it on your copy, word for word, it's really going to resonate with those people, and it's going to be the people you want in your gym, mm-hmm. right? So customer research is really important with copy, making sure that you're delivering what your audience actually wants.
Love it, man. Now, how do you differentiate yourself in a saturated marketplace full of the same offers? Because
great question.
I know we've kind of touched on it a little bit along the way, but specifically, we've got a lot of marketplaces where it's same. Everyone's doing the same shit. And they're like, how do I stand out? Because they're not necessarily a marketer and advertiser by nature. So they struck lightning in a bottle with something. It worked for a few months, or maybe they're coming in a little bit later and they're like, all right, I've got to get it together. Everyone else is getting all the members. I'm dying over here. What do I do? How do you differentiate?
Yeah, great question. I love it. And like I said, the 6-week challenge, it's saturated. So how do you, if everybody's using that same copy paste funnel, how do you differentiate yourself, right? So one thing, we've been talking about this, branding and messaging, right? So having those differentiating factors in your copy that are look, I'm not like your typical gym. I'm not like the other CrossFit gym down the road, right? This is why I differentiate. This is how I differentiate myself, right? Actually getting people to be aware of that. Something else that people kind of miss the ball on here is just providing value. I know we've been talking about this, but people think that I have to put out this offer because I need to get people in the studio, but they're not thinking futuristically. And I think this is where the law of reciprocity comes into effect, where if you actually just put out an ad delivering pure value, not actually selling anything, that's going to come back tenfold later on if you strategize it properly. So you utilize that, and I know I mentioned this strategy where you actually put out the value and then you retarget people who have seen that, right? That's something that a lot of people don't do because nobody wants to put money into Facebook when they're not seeing a direct return on that investment. Right. So they're a little scared or hesitant to do that, but that differentiate yourself right there, actually just going out of your way to give value to your audience. Something else, now this is going to be kind of tough for a lot of gym owners, but it's winning the auction process. So Facebook, it's an auction process. If you have 6 competitors around you, running Facebook ads, how do you win? Or how do you get in front of or outbeat your competition? You spend more than them. I know this is going to sound crazy, but if you
nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah, I know. If you outbid your competition, you're going to show up on their news feeds, right? But how you win that? So the auction process in Facebook, it's essentially like, okay, how many people are competing for the news feeds of your audience? If there's a whole bunch, your cost is going to go up like crazy, right? But if you're beating everybody else and spending more money, you're actually getting more results for a cheaper price. But there's that fine line in terms of bidding, because let's say you're paying $50 a day, but a gym across the road is paying $70 a day, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to beat you if the content is the same. Now, here's where you can also win, right? And this is where it comes into relevance. So if you have an ad that you put out and it's, let's say Facebook ranks you, gives you a relevance score of 10. And if nobody's familiar with the relevance score, it's essentially Facebook's way of ranking your ad based on how relevant it is to your audience, right? So if you have a relevance of 7 and your competition has a relevance of 4, then Facebook's actually going to push your ad to more people because it's more relevant. Facebook knows that your audience actually likes that content more. People are engaging more. There's more comments and shares. And this is kind of where I draw back to the foundations of understanding the algorithm. Because when you understand the algorithm, you're able to beat out your competition.
Sure.
Right? You're able to now win that auction, and maybe you're not even spending any more. It's just you're now having such relevant copy, you're having such relevant content that Facebook wants to push your ads to more people, even though somebody else might be paying a bit more for that. Does that kind of make sense what I'm saying?
Absolutely, man. That was really good advice.
Awesome. Yeah, and then I guess the last thing is just, like I said, getting Facebook to like your content. The more it likes your content, the more it's going to beat you or push you to more people. So like I said, if your competitor has a relevancy score of 6, but they're spending $70 a day, but your relevance score is 10 and you're only spending, let's say, $10 a day, you might actually be getting pushed to more people than them, even though they're spending more than you.
Yep.
Right.
And that's
so
key.
It's all up. And it's key. It's key. So that's why you need to find that fine line of how much do you need to spend and how relevant you need to make your content and your copy to make sure that you're obviously going to win in that auction process and beat your competition.
Yeah, and so that brings up an important point, I think. Let me clarify. That this, and because you're talking about not just the paid content has to be relevant and people have to be interested. It's all of your content. Is that right?
All of it.
Okay, so that goes back to something that this is that point that if you don't do any social media at all, right? And you're like, okay, I'm just going to put out this ad and expect for it to basically solve all of my problems. And maybe you don't have the biggest unlimited budget, and you're like, well, why isn't it working? Why isn't it converting? It's because a good ad strategy is infinitely more effective if it's on the back of an already solid organic strategy. Is that accurate?
Exactly. 100%. And the one thing that I can add to that is if you're putting out content on your page that's getting really good engagement, organic views, reach, all that kind of stuff, you can repurpose that content and use it as an ad. If you know it's getting, wow, this video got all this engagement, all this reach, like people are really valuing this content, you can boost that post and push it out to more people because you know already based on your organic reach and growth and how it did that it's going to do pretty well when you push it and put money into it.
Sure.
Right?
Awesome.
So absolutely.
Yeah, because that's where I think a lot of people really struggle because in part of our program, sorry to go back to that, what we do is we actually build out an entire annual marketing calendar, and that's a content calendar. We literally lay out every single thing that from, like I said, from the quarterly theme to the monthly and the weekly themes and categories and literally daily templates that you can literally just follow. And if you start with that first and you create just a consistent, organic a stream of content that people are actually engaging with because it's them, right? Mm-hmm. You're engaging your members. Yep. These are highlights and things that you're telling the story from within, right? It's your gym narrative from the inside out. So it's authentic. So people will engage. You're already going to become that much more appealing to Facebook. And then now when you do run an advertisement, it's going to be that much more effective because it's on the back of an already existing healthy and engaging content strategy versus going from 0 to, okay, now I've got to put this ad set together and I've got to have it save the world and I only have $300. Go.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And just to bring up a point here, the one thing I always ask clients that come to me is, do you have a marketing plan? Right. And a lot of the times they don't. And to be completely honest, the only people who have ever told me they do have a marketing plan have been clients that have been sent from you guys.
Yeah.
So the one thing I will say that in terms of the 8-week consulting program that you guys have in terms of kind of redesigning their sales and marketing, that is what is crucial to make sure that you can have successful campaigns. Because like you said, if you have that organic strategy that's working really well already, we're able to utilize that information as a marketing company and leverage it and actually start getting you results based on that content you already have. Right. So having that plan and having a plan in place is so crucial for the success of your advertising.
Beautiful, man. Well, thank you for the shout out on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. What else can we address here? What else are things that you feel that the gym owners here going into the new year specifically? Because I got a question in here from one of our viewers asking, what's the best, campaign for New Year's? And as we discussed, there isn't like the one solution, but is there any advice you can give gym owners going into the new year to be as successful as possible, even if maybe they haven't done that much yet? They're not.
Yes.
Let's say you're starting kind of from not the best spot now in November, and you want to get the most bang for your buck going into the new year. What would you suggest?
Okay, so starting now, for one, because you need to start prepping your audiences and stuff. One thing I will say, and this is kind of a tangent here, but I noticed that a lot of people don't have pixels installed on their websites, Facebook pixels and certain tracking things. But what you want to do is get that up on your website as soon as possible, because that'll start gathering data for your business. That's really figuring out who your audience is. So what I would do starting now is start your testing process in terms of marketing, right? So I mentioned this before in terms of campaigns. You want to come up with a couple campaigns that you think are going to be valuable or that you can offer. So if it's a paid trial, if it's not, that it's all up to you and your business. You know your business. You know kind of what people like. If the 7-day pass works really well, great. But you really want to come up with a plan and start testing things now. So I'm going to give you 5 things that you can start to or 4 things that you can start today to test. Actually, you know what? I'll make it 3 just to make it very easy. So what you want to do, I want to make it simple.
Let's make it 1. Just kidding.
Yeah, let's make it 1. Yeah, let's make it 1 kind of simple thing. So what you want to do is you want to come up with those offers, right? So that's going to be that one thing. So come up with 4 or 5 different offers that you can run. Then what you want to do is you want to create an audience. Now, there's different audiences you can create, but I'm not going to get into the complex audiences. Just make an audience that's targeting a radius around your location. So you can do a 5-mile radius around your location. Make sure you're not expanding interests. Just put that radius around your location. Target if you're targeting men or women. If your audience is mostly men, obviously, whatever your demographic is, put it into your targeting. Make your placements only newsfeed. This is crucial. So there's a button in your audience section where you can just make who you're targeting just go to Facebook newsfeeds. You don't want it going to Messenger. You don't want it going to audience networks. Just Facebook newsfeed.
Okay.
Next, what you want to do is once you have that audience set up, you want to make those 4 different offers, right? Keep everything else the same, right? This is crucial when you're testing things. You need to isolate the variable you're testing, right? If you're testing like your challenges or your offers, you want to make sure that the only difference between those 4 offers is that headline, which is 6-week pass or 6-week challenge or 7-day pass or 2 weeks for $17. The only thing that's different in the copy is the offers, right? So you're isolating that variable. You want to put out that test to see, okay, which one's going to work the best, right? And then you want to run that, right? You want to run it. Now, there's a couple campaigns you can run. You can run a messenger campaign, which is very basic. All you need to do is run a messenger ad campaign, which is one of the objectives you can create when creating an ad. And then there's lead ads as well. It's a little bit more complex with lead ads, but lead ads work really good as well. But those are the 2 I would start with, because unless you have a landing page funnel already set up, I'm not sure where everybody's at in their business, but there's also conversion objectives you can run if you have a landing page. So what I would do, so if you're kind of new to this, you don't know what to do or how to start, I would start with a messenger ad and test those 4 offers or 5 offers, like I just said, and see who's actually messaging you back based on those offers, right? And then you can kind of get an idea of, okay, let's say the 7-day pass is actually getting people to message me. I can start to understand, okay, this offer is working a little bit better than the other ones. Right. And then once you have that, then you can kind of create a campaign that's in line with that. Right. And then you can actually implement that for the new year, because you already know now, if you start testing today, that this offer is resonating with your audience, right? So that when New Year's comes, you have that offer ready so that you can boost that ad. If you have a landing page, if you have these different kind of systems already set up that you can actually use and implement with that offer that you figured out from starting today, you can use that for the new year. So what I would say is start testing things today, so that when the new year comes, you have an idea of what's working on Facebook already, so that when, like I said, the new year comes, you can just boost that post out with that specific offer you know is going to work. Does that kind of make sense, what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So hopefully that was kind of not a whole lot of information, and that was kind of like replicatable. But like I said, if anybody needs help with something, I'm happy to send like a sheet to you so you can put it in the podcast notes of kind of what I just went over, so that people can kind of follow that step by step if need be.
Yeah, we'd love that, man. We'll add it here. We'll link it in the comments below. We'll obviously put it to the blog post as well. So if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you click through the link and visit the website where we'll have the show notes and the detailed notes from you, Alec.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Final question. If in one sentence, if you could give one piece of advice to a gym owner, what would it be?
Ooh. I mean, the best thing I can say is just don't expect to always hit the home run, and make sure that whenever you're putting out campaigns, you are testing everything, right? And I think one thing we touched base that's really important is just mindset. Make sure you truly believe that it's going to work. Make sure that you know that every failure is actually leading to you understanding and knowing more about Facebook, so that the next campaign you run is going to hit that home run and you're going to kill it. Awesome, man. Great advice. Thank you. Where can people find more about you and Untapped Revenue? So for now, our website is under construction. So for me, you can just find me on Facebook, LinkedIn. My name is Alec Littlejohn, and that's essentially it. Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. And we'll link to all that stuff again in the show notes here, to your social handles, all that. So people can reach out to you, learn more about what you're up to, maybe get some help. Good timing now. Going into the new year, you'll have just enough time to get it set up with Alec and get some testing started before we get right into that crucial season at the end of December, where it's time to work, right? Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Cool. Awesome. Alec, thank you so much for joining us, man. You dropped a ton of science on our audience today. Thank you. Thank you. And I want to thank all of you motivated gym owners for joining us today as well. We had a ton of great comments and views today. So thank you. Again, if you're listening to this via podcast, be sure to check out the video version of this interview along with the extensive show notes at gymwright.com. And leave us a written review or a 5-star rating. Your support means the world to us. Also, if you'd like to watch the show live, remember you can always join the conversation every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time right here in the network. Thanks again for your support, and now get out there and build something that matters. We'll see you next week.